Okay, what's up? So, magandang araw sa ating lahat. Kung ano mang oras mo napapanood 'to. Ah, Today we are going to talk about the subject, Introduction to Criminology. So, kanino nga ba yung video na 'to? Ang video na 'to ay para sa mga siguro mga criminology students. This can be a supplemental learning for you. Supplemental learning aside sa mga napag-aaralan ninyo sa school or sa mga criminology graduates natin or mga higher years na gusto mag-review for their board exam or para sa mga nagre-review for the board exam. Alright? So, pwede rin siguro sa mga senior high school na gusto mag-take ng criminology para magka-idea kayo kung ano nga ba yung gusto ninyong pasukin. Now, let us talk about this subject. Introduction to Criminology. Ito kasi yung subject na unang major subject ng isang first year criminology student. This is taken during the first semester of the first year of the criminology students. So in this topic, ito yung mga pag-uusapan natin. By the way, yung tinuturo sa school, ang mga topics na nandoon, makikita mo doon sa CHED-TP 2018. Okay, pwede nyo i-search sa internet yan. Nandun yung mga topics sa bawat subject ng BS Criminology curriculum. Itong laman ng topic natin dito sa presentation na to, this is more streamlined. Ito kinuha natin dun sa Table of Specification, TOS. Yun yung document na naglalaman ng topic na pagkukunan ng tanong sa board exam. Alright? So basically, kung titignan ninyo yung mga topic dito, these are competencies. Okay, pansin nyo sa mga verb, no? Okay. So, ano ba yung mga competencies na to? Ito yung tinitest sa board exam. So basically, ito yung kailangang ma-demonstrate ng isang registered criminologist para masukat ng ating board kung ikaw ba ay pasado na to be granted the privilege to practice the criminology profession in the Halimbawa, dito meron tayong 4 na set of topics. Sa 1.1, you must be able to discuss the following basic theories. We have the classical school of criminology, neoclassical school, and positivist school of criminology. So yan yung mga basic school of thoughts natin, no, sa criminology or primary school of thoughts natin sa criminology. We have topic 2, 1.2, understand the fundamental concepts of criminology such as crime, deviance, norms, laws, mala-inse, mala-prohibita, consensus, conflict, and interactionist model. So dapat pala may kama dyan. Anyway, siguro para hindi masyadong mahaba, ang gagawin ko rito ay part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Okay, so in this video, we are going to discuss part 1. Diba? The following basic theories: classical, neoclassical, and positivist school of criminology. So unang-unang tanong, what is criminology? Well, ang isa sa universally accepted definition is by Dr. Edwin Sutherland. Sino nga ba si Dr. Edwin Sutherland? He is renowned as the dean of criminology kung tawagin. Other people says that he is the father of American criminology. He is also the proponent of differential association theory, kung tawagin natin. Ngayon, paano nga ba niya dinefine ang criminology? Ito siya. Basahin natin. Criminology is the body of knowledge regarding crime as a social phenomena. It includes within its scope the processes of making laws, breaking laws, and reacting towards the breaking of law or laws. Okay? So, unang sentence. Criminology is the body of knowledge regarding crime as a social phenomena. So, sa madaling salita, ang criminology is the study of crime. Okay? And crime happens in society. Ito kasi yun eh. Later on, matututunan natin or sa inyong nagre-review for the board exam, mare-review natin no, that crime exists because there is a law and law exists in society. That's why crime is a social phenomena because crime exists in society. And since we study crime, okay, we call this study criminology. We are, as a social science, okay, the body of knowledge regarding crime as a social phenomena. Yan yung unang-unang concept na kailangan nating i-sink in, okay, or i-contemplate. Crime is a social phenomena. Ang paglabag sa batas ay nangyayari sa lipunan. Bakit? Because sa lipunan merong batas. And we will deal more on that later with that topic. Second sentence, it includes within its scope the processes of making laws, breaking laws, and reacting towards the breaking of law. Dito, makikita mo, in-illustrate ni Edwin Sutherland yung scope ng pag-aaral ng krimen. Kasali dyan kung paano nga ba nagkakaroon ng batas. We have the making of laws, that process. Okay? Tinatawag din natin yun na sociology of law. And then we have the breaking of laws. Paano nga ba ito nilalabag? Ano yung mga nagkokos, nagiging sanhi, dulot ng paglabag sa batas ng mga tao? Yan ay tinatawag din nating etiology of crime or criminal etiology and reacting towards the breaking of law. How does the society react or reacts towards the breaking of law? Diyan papasok yung tinatawag natin na penology. Penology, the study of punishment. How do we react kapag kami nagkasala sa batas? Ano ginagawa natin sa kanya? Pinarurusahan, nire-rehab, tinitreatment, para saan? Diba? Anong end goal? Anong purpose? So, yun naman ang sakop ng penology, which in this definition falls on the aspect of the reaction towards the breaking of law. Moving on, pagka Philippine law naman, Philippine law, ang pinag-uusapan, we have Republic Act number 11131, where we can find the definition of criminology under Section 4, Paragraph E. And according to this law, criminology refers to the scientific study of crimes, criminals, and victims. It also deals with the prevention and solution of crimes. Ano mapapansin nyo? Criminology refers to the scientific study of crimes. So, ibig sabihin, hindi lang haka-haka ang pag-aaral sa mga aspeto ng crime. Diba? It is scientific because we use research instruments. We use scientific method. We gather, analyze, and evaluate data. And we draw conclusion from these data sets in order to conclude kung ano nga ba yung mga napakaraming aspeto ng krimen natin. Yeah? Yung demographics natin, ano nga ba yung age ng mga typical na gumagawa ng ganitong krimen? Ano ba ang mas marami, babae, lalaki? Okay. Ano yung mga stages kung paano nade-develop yung kanilang motivation? And how can we prevent these things from happening? Because you will realize na sa pag-aaral ng criminology, the purpose of it is to prevent crime. Or if we cannot prevent it, at least we can control it. We can maintain it at a certain level, okay, that is not detrimental to the society. At ang criminology, hindi lang crime ang pinag-aaralan, kundi criminals, including the victims. Ngayon, doon sa unang definition natin kay Dr. Edwin Sutherland, kung mapansin nyo, umiikot yung definition niya in the process of yung scope niya in the processes of making laws, breaking laws, and reacting towards the breaking of law, but there is no mention of victims. And usually, no, nung araw, hindi napapansin ang victim. Okay? In fact, ang pag-aaral ng criminology, ang kapatid niyan ay ang pag-aaral ng criminal justice system natin. How does our government or the society in general process the person after committing a crime? How do we treat them? No? And in these subjects, early, no, ng mga naunang pagkakataon, hindi masyado napapansin ang victim. In fact, mayroong isang kataga na nababanggit nung kami nag-aaral, minsan tinatanong sa quiz, who is the forgotten person in the criminal justice system? And the answer would be the victim. Bakit? Because sa pag-aaral ng criminal justice system, ang nangyayari ay lahat naman ng process umiikot doon sa ating superstar. Sino yung superstar? Yung ating uh, suspect, yung ating criminal, okay? Yung ating accused, yung ating respondent, yung ating convict, yung ating PDL. Okay? Siya ang superstar eh. Kasi yung pinag-aaralan natin doon, ano yung mga proseso na kailangan na niyang pagdaanan. Paano natin siya proseso? Ano yung sistema? But, paano natin ina-address yung ating victim? It is not included there. Kaya nga hindi tinawag na victim justice system eh. Bakit? Because the victim is usually forgotten. Victim justice system. Wala eh. Bakit? Usually, ano ba nangyari sa victim? Ba't siya nakakalimutan? Because sometimes they are killed, they are subjected to whatever na ginawa ng suspect sa kanila. And that is another story. That is another matter. But just want to emphasize, in the modern times, dito sa ating definition under the Philippine law, it also includes the study of victims. Yan ang modern criminology. No? And it also deals with the prevention and solution of crimes, which is the purpose of criminology. to prevent, and to solve crimes. If you is it possible to prevent crime? Well, that is the ideal, but there are perspectives that you cannot really prevent it at zero level. Meron nga tayong kasabihan, as long as there is a law, there is a crime. There would be crime. Right? Now, let us talk about the etymology. Ano ba yung etymology? Study of the origin of words. Diba? So, pag sinabing criminology, saan nga ba nagmula ito? Anong mga salita ang bumubuo rito? So, the term criminology comes from both the Latin word crimen, which means accusation, and the translated Greek term logia, which is used to describe the study of a particular concept or subject. Furthermore, criminology is considered a branch of sociology. It draws on aspects of psychology and anthropology. Okay, what lesson can we learn from the etymology? Okay, so crimen means accusation, logia means study of a particular concept. So does that mean study of accusation, study of crimes, study of law breaking? Okay. Moreover, it is considered a branch of sociology. Well, it is under the umbrella of social science like sociology, together with psychology and anthropology. Basically, criminology, anak na yan eh. Yan ay hybrid eh. Yung mga disiplina natin sa crime ay nanggaling din sa disiplina ng ibang field of study like sociology, psychology, anthropology. So halo-halo ito. But from its term, now we are focused more on the crime or the criminal aspect of our society. Kumbaga, dito nakapokus yung ating lente. Ito yung pinag-aaralan natin. Paglabag sa batas. Mga lumalabag sa batas. Bakit lumalabag sa batas? Bakit ginagawang krimen ang isang bagay na dati ay hindi naman? Di ba? Moving on, another concept in the origin of criminology. Sabi ko kanina, hindi ako magdi-discuss ng history. Sige, nadaanan na natin to. So, in 1885, si Rafael Garofalo, yan yung isa sa estudyante ni Cesare Lombroso, together with Enrico Ferri, yung tinatawag natin na Holy Tree of Criminology. Well, according to Rafael Garofalo, who coined the term criminology, he is a law professor. And together with, di pala together with kasi hindi naman sila magkasama. Yung isang French criminologist, anthropologist naman, Paul Topinard, used it for the first time in French, criminology with letter IE sa huli, around the same time. I think 1887 ba yan? Just kindly check the date. Now, ano ang, sa paggamit nila ng word na criminology, ito yung pagkakapareho ng gusto nila o ibig nila sabihin. First, it is the scientific study of crime, criminal behavior, and law enforcement. Okay, pansin nyo, it includes law enforcement. Magkapatid yan na konsepto, krimen at batas, at pagpapatupad ng batas. The study of the making of laws and the breaking of laws and the reaction to the breaking of laws. Those are basically the essence of the word, criminology. Kanina, nabanggit natin yung RA 11131, diba, when we further sought for the definition of criminology. But what is criminology under RA 11131. Okay, ito na ulit na lang to, right? So ito din yung binasa natin kanina. Now, moving on dun sa definition ni Dr. Edwin Sutherland, we can draw from it the principal divisions of criminology. Okay? Sociology of law, din nabanggit natin. Okay? The process of making of laws. Etiology of crime or criminal etiology. Ito yung we study the causes of crime. Okay? And penology, the study of punishment. This is how we react on the breaking of laws. Ika nga. And in addition, in our modern criminology, we have victimology, the study of crime victims. Okay? In a separate video, gagawan natin ng discussion yung mga types of victim of crimes. Diba? Marami yan. And that is very interesting. Now, in terms of historical development of criminology, kanina nabanggit natin, we are going to discuss classical, uh, neoclassical, and positivist or yung mga basic theories natin in criminology. But in order for us to better understand it, kailangan muna nating pag-usapan ano ba yung mga nauna, no? Yung naunang thinking natin before classical criminology. So we have the so-called demonology or tinatawag din natin na pre-classical criminology or pre-classical theory. Bakit pre? The suffix pre means before. Diba? Pre. Before classical. We have, dalawa lang ang rason kung bakit gumagawa ng krimen ang isang tao nung araw. Ito yung katwiran ng lipunan nung araw. Yung Middle Ages. Dark Ages. Bakit kaya tinawag na dark? No? Bago mag-Renaissance. Enlightenment yung tawagin natin. Okay? So before 18th century, pababa, we have the Dark Ages. Dalawa lang ang rason. We have either temptation or possession. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Ang tao daw, kasi di ba, we are living, we have rules in society. Okay? Ang tanong, ang sitwasyon, meron kasing mga tao nakakalabag ng rules sa society na dapat sinusunod. Ang tanong, bakit sila lumalabag? Ang explanation, demonology, number one, temptation. Sila ay natukso ng demonyo. Tukso ng masamang impluensya, masamang espiritu, ika nga. Bakit kaya? Kasi kung papansinin nyo, maaari nating hiramin siguro yung kwento sa Bible, yung kwento ni Eva at Adan. Di ba? They live in the Garden of Eden. And according to God, they can eat any fruit except for one fruit. Diba? Yung fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay. Ngayon, you know how the story goes, right? Nandun yung, one day, nandun yung demonyo. Tapos, ang una niyang nakausap, si Eva ba yun? O si Adan? Si Eva, I think eh. Sabi nung, magaling din yung yung demonyo eh, na nag-anyong ahas, di ba? Ang tanong ng ahas is, Eva, totoo ba na hindi kayo maaaring kumain ng kahit anong bungang kahoy dito sa halamanan? Di ba? Pansin nyo yung pagka-frame nung yung Satanas, nung demonyo na nag-anyong ahas, yung pagka-frame niya ng tanong. Hindi niya dinirektang tinanong kung totoo ba na hindi kayo pwedeng kumain ng prutas na to? Di ba hindi niya dinirektang tinanong yun? Nagsimula siya sa premise Sabi niya, totoo bang hindi kayo maaaring at bawal kayong kumain ng mga bunga ng mga punong kahoy rito, mga prutas. Ang sabi ni Eva, hindi, maaari, hindi totoo yan. Maaari kaming kumain ng kahit na anong prutas, maliban na lamang sa prutas ng bunga ng puno na ito. Tapos kinontra siya nung ahas, di ba? Sabi nung ahas, dahil pagka kinain namin yan, sabi ni Eva, ay mamamatay kami. Sabi ng ahas, ahas, hindi totoo yan. Diba? Bakit daw? Hindi totoo yan. Dahil pinagbabawalan kayo ng Diyos na kumain ng bunga ng punong kahoy na ito dahil pag kayo ay kumain nito, ay malalaman ninyo kung ano ang tama at mali at magiging parang Diyos kayo. At doon naman na-convince si Eva. Di ba? So, kumain siya nung pinagbabawal na prutas. Lumabag siya doon sa rules na nilay down ng Diyos. And then, after niya magkasala, kumuha siya ng prutas tapos binigay niya doon sa partner niya, si Adan. And, yan, nagkasala din si Adan. So, they both violate the rule. And the cause of that is due to the influence of the demon. Okay? Kaya nung araw, kapag nag-violate ka ng rules, ang explanation dyan ay ikaw ay natukso. O tukso. Yun yung isang rason o paliwanag nung una. Pangalawa, yung tinatawag na sapi. Bakit sapi? Or yung tinatawag natin na possession. So may mga taong nakagawa ng krimen, halimbawa, nakapatay ng tao dahil siya ay nasasapian ng masamang espiritu. So basically, it boils down to the influence of bad or evil spirits. Yan ang simpleng paliwanag ng araw. Okay? Nung wala pa tayong classical, neoclassical, and positivist school of thoughts, then sa kabilang banda, meron din tayong tinatawag na divine will theory or yung pre-classical. Pre-classical din to, bago mag-classical. It means men manifest criminal behavior because they are sinful, so God wants to punish them. Ibig sabihin nun, may mga tao daw na ginagawang instrumento ng Diyos para parusahan yung kapwa niya tao. So basically, sila ay nakagawa ng krimen, no? Halimbawa, nakapatay siya ng tao, pero ang paliwanag ng lipunan is, yung tao na yan, nagawa niya lang yung krimen dahil siya ay kinasangkapan ng Diyos para parusahan yung kung sino mang tao na pinarusahan niya o napatay niya. Okay, ano mapapansin niyo? It's a simple explanation, right? Kaya lang, the problem with this thinking or theory ay yung double standard. Diba? Isipin mo, meron tayong demonology, which ang ibig sabihin ay pag naggawa ng tao naggawa ng krimen yung tao dahil sa impluwensya ng masamang espiritu. On the other side, nagawa ang tao ng krimen dahil siya ay ginawang instrumento ng Diyos. Isipin mo si Pedro at Brian, for example, parehas sila pumatay ng tao. Tapos sasabihin natin, si Brian, kinasangkapan ng Diyos. Tapos si Pedro ay nasapian niya na masamang espiritu. Okay? Parang yung isipin mo, parang halimbawa, sa atin, sa modern times, di ba, pag gwapo yung tumingin, no, heartthrob. Pero kapag pangit, ang tawag manyakis. Yeah. Pag pinauna ka nung, halimbawa, babae ka na, tapos naglalakad kayo, pag pinauna ka nung lalaki at siya ay gwapo, ang tawag natin, gentleman. Pero pag pangit, pinauna ka, ang tawag natin, manyakis. Bakit? Kasi nakatitig dun sa, sa puwet mo. So, parang ganito din yun eh. No? We are rationalizing the commission of a crime by a certain person because God used him as an instrument. While on the other hand, we are classifying the person who committed the crime that is influenced by evil spirits. So there is a double standard in this case. Kaya lang kailangan nating intindihin na itong mga paliwanag na to exists before the age of Renaissance or Enlightenment nung 18th century. Okay? Ngayon, nung 18th century, diyan, umusbong yung tinatawag natin na classical school of thought. Ano yung classical school of thought? In criminology, maraming classical school, no? Classical school in economics. Ito lang, classical school of criminology. Okay. Kung saan nagsimulang i-reject ng mga thinkers natin yung paniniwala that is established by religion. Okay. So the classical school emerged in the 18th century during the Enlightenment period as a response to the harsh and arbitrary justice systems of the time. The key figures in this movement, particularly Cesare Beccaria and Jeremy Bentham, sought to reform the criminal justice system by promoting the idea that people are rational beings who engage in criminal behavior through free will and calculated decision making. So, the idea in classical theory is more on uh, being objective, hindi na more on relying sa influence ng spirits. Okay. Ano ba yung main idea dito? Pero bago yan, pag-usapan natin si Cesare Beccaria. So, si Cesare Beccaria is considered also as the father of classical criminology. No? And he has a seminal work titled De Deliti e del Pene, or in English, Essay on Crimes and Punishments. So, it is available also in the internet kung gusto nyong basahin. That is one of the early works that laid down the foundation of the classical school. Okay, yung classical theory natin, hindi lang natin sa criminology ginagamit. No? It is also one of the foundations of our criminal law. Not only in the Philippines, universal yan mga kaibigan. He argued for a more humane and rational approach to punishment, emphasizing that the severity of punishment should be proportionate to the crime and that it should serve as a deterrent. He also advocated for the abolition of torture and the death penalty. Okay, so dito mapag-uusapan natin yung just desert na concept, hedonism, at retribution, free will, at marami pang iba. Okay, according to Cesare Beccaria, it is better to prevent crimes than to punish them. I think that is a good thought to ponder, to contemplate. When you are saying that it's better to prevent crimes, that is being proactive thinking. Pagka kasi to punish them, that is being reactive. So, gagalaw tayo pag nandyan na, nag-violate na ng crime. Sabi ni Beccaria, wag na nating hintayin, no, na kumbaga in essence, wag na nating hintayin na may mangyaring crime at mag-punish na lang tayo. Kasi napakatamad na trabaho yun eh. Instead, it's better to prevent crimes. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa nangyayari yung krimen, gumagawa na tayo ng mga solusyon in order to address it. Para hindi na siya mangyari. So that is future thinking. Okay, by the way, the photo is not mine. Credit to the owner. Nakuha ko lang yata siya sa Google long time ago. And then we have another personality in classical school of criminology. And that is Jeremy Bentham. Okay. Sino ba si Jeremy Bentham? Basahin lang natin ng konti. Siya yung pag sinabing Jeremy Bentham in criminology, utilitarianism. Okay? Diyan papasok yung mga konsepto natin ng hedonism, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain. Ano ba yung utilitarianism? Yeah. Basically, the concept behind that is, or the idea behind that concept is the greatest good for the greatest number. So, in other terms, maximizing pleasure, minimizing pain. So, Jeremy Bentham is an English philosopher and legal theorist, further developed the ideas of classical school by introducing the concept of utilitarianism. He proposed that laws should be designed to maximize the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. Bentham believed that individuals weigh the potential pleasure and pain of their actions and that effective punishment should outweigh the pleasure derived from criminal activity. Okay. Dito papasok yung konsepto ng deterrence, no? Okay. Kasi ang tao, bago daw yan gumawa ng crime, tinitimbang niya muna. Okay. Ang tinitimbang niya, ano yung benefits na makakuha niya, rewards na makakuha niya pag gumawa siya ng krimen, and ano yung consequences or punishment pag nahuli siya. So basically, ito ang idea ng classical. Okay, isa lang to sa mga idea. According to Jeremy Bentham, it is the greatest happiness of the greatest number that is measured. That is the measure of right and wrong. That true? Alam mo nung kabataan ko, kung ano lang mabasa ko noon, pinapaniwalaan ko na agad eh. Lalo na pag sikat na tao. No? But when I am growing, I started to realize na hindi mo kailangan paniwalaan lahat ng nababasa mo. You can challenge it. Sabi ni Siddhartha Gautama, si Buddha, believe nothing except if it agrees with your own reason and common sense. So, wait lang. Here are the principles of classical criminology. Pag-usapan natin. We have rationality, free will, deterrence, and proportionality. What do we mean by these concepts? Ito yung mga tatandaan nyo, mga criminology students. Ano yung mga tatandaan nyo pag sinabing classical criminology? Number one, or first, rationality. Ano ibig sabihin nun? According to the perspective of classical criminology, humans are rational actors who weigh the costs and benefits of their actions. Sa madaling salita sa Tagalog, lahat ng tao, no? Ang tao, matalinong nilalang yan. Matalinong nilalang. Alam niyang tama at mali. Bago gumawa ng isang bagay ang isang tao, alam niya kung ano o inaalam niya kung ano ang magiging benepisyo niya, makukuha niya, magigain niya, magiging reward niya, mga interest niya na makukuha pag ginawa niya isang bagay at ano yung mga negative na makukuha niya pag siya ay pumalpak dun sa isang bagay. Halimbawa nga, paggawa ng krimen. Okay? Ang tao ba, okay, ang tao magnanakaw halimbawa, iniisip niya kung magkano ang halaga ng nanakawin niya. Under the classical criminology, iniisip din niya kung anong maaaring mangyari sa kanya pag pumalpak siya, pag nahuli siya. Yan ang prinsipyo ng classical. Okay, tao matalino yan. Kaya, yan. Next, free will. Ano yung free will? Freedom. Okay? Individuals have the freedom to choose their behavior. Ano ibig sabihin? Ang tao daw, may kalayaan yan. May kalayaan yan na magdesisyon para sa sarili niya. Kaya naman, kung yung tao nag-decide yan na gumawa ng krimen at yan nahuli, deserve niyan mapunish. Bakit? Alam niya ginagawa niya eh. Alam niya in the first place kung ano maaaring mangyari sa kanya. Alam niya, no? Isipin mo, nagnakaw ng cellphone, nung nahuli, sasabihin niya, hindi niya alam na masama magnakaw. Sino maniniwala doon? I remember some years ago, may napanood akong balita eh. May isang, babae. Meet up siya dun sa lalaki. Ka-chat niya. Nung nagkita sila, niyaya nung lalaki si babae na pumunta sa bahay nila, bahay ng lalaki. Nandun daw kasi yung mga tropa niya at magiinuman sila. Okay. Di 5 yung tropa niya. Mag-isa lang siyang babae, sumama. Ngayon, kinaumagahan, nag-report siya na ginahasa siya. Ginangbang siya ng mga lalaki. Ngayon, kung iisipin mo, babae ka, no? Niyaya ka nung lalaki na sumama sa kanya, ang gagawin niyo magiinuman kayo kasama ng mga kaibigan niya lalaki. 5 silang lalaki, mag-isa ka lang na babae, magiinuman kayo. Based sa experience mo sa mundong ibabaw, anong pumasok sa isip mo na kahahantungan nun? Anong iniisip mo magba-Bible study kayo? So, dito makikita mo ang classical criminology. Ang sasabihin niyan, alam mo na maaaring may mangyari sa'yo. Ang tao matalino nila lang bago yan pumasok sa isang bagay. Tinitimbang niya muna kung ano yung mangyayari sa kanya. Pero that does not mean na lahat ng tao nag-iisip. Tama? Pinapaliwanag lang natin, ito yung perspective ng classical criminology. Moving on, we have third concept, deterrence. Ano ba yung deterrence? Dalawang klase yung deterrence eh. Specific deterrence and general deterrence kung tawagin. So pag sinabing deterrence, punishment should be swift, certain, and proportionate to deter crime. So, dapat daw ang punishment mabilis, sigurado, at sakto. Okay? Or nababagay doon sa kung gaano kagrabe yung ginawang krimen, ganun din dapat kagrabe yung parusa. Para maging example sa public at sa sarili ng offender na wag nang umulit para ma-deter, para mapigilan. Okay? Ano ba yung special deterrence? Pinaparusahan natin yung tao para una magtanda siya. Wag na niyang ulitin. Okay? Nakaw siya, ikulong mo, according sa kung anong sinasabi ng batas natin, para magtanda siya. Pangalawa, para makita ng public at wag na siyang tularan ng iba. Okay? Because it will send signal to the public na ay ganun pala ang mangyayari sa atin pagka ginawa natin yung ginawa niya. That is deterrence. Okay? Kailangan ng sample. Okay? Sample. And the concept of proportionality. Ibig sabihin nun, the punishment should fit the crime, avoiding excessive or arbitrary penalties. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, para maging successful yung deterrence natin, ang parusa dapat ay proportionate or naaangkop doon sa ginawang krimen. It should fit the crime. Okay. Pero hindi naman ibig sabihin na excessive, no? It should avoid excessive or arbitrary penalties. Halimbawa, yung kapitbahay mo nagnakaw ng manok. Okay lang ba na ang parusa ay death penalty? Ang question is that proportionate? Okay, magkatugma ba yung bigat ng pagnanakaw ng manok kumpara sa buhay ng tao? Hindi naman yata angkop yun, diba? Dapat it should be proportionate. Okay. Next. Okay, what is the purpose of punishment under classical school of criminology? Okay, dito papasok yung konsepto natin ng retribution. Remember the word purpose. Sa classical criminology, bakit tayo nagpaparusa? Okay. Bakit tayo nagpaparusa? In order to redress, yeah, or to appease the wrong done to the victim. Sa Tagalog, yung retribution, ipaghiganti natin yung ginawa ng suspect doon sa victim. It refers to the redress that the government takes against the offender to appease the wrong done to the victim. Diyan papasok yung konsepto ng lex talionis. Ano ba yung lex talionis or the law of talions? Doon sa Code of Hammurabi, one of the oldest codes. Hindi siya oldest, no, pero one of the oldest. Doon mo makikita yung principle na eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Yeah. Mata sa mata, ngipin sa ngipin. Kapag buhay ang inutang, buhay din ang kabayaran. This is the concept of retribution. Actually, that is the earliest, one of the earliest law, lex talionis. Okay? The law of revenge. Bakit? Kasi isipin mo nung araw, nung mga panahong wala pang justice system, Wala pang kingdom, wala pang sistema, wala pang police, mga panahong hunter-gatherer pa tayo. O yung mga panahong tribo tayo. Ay mga tao. Tapos may pumatay doon sa kamag-anak mo, halimbawa tatay mo. Anong gagawin mo? Wala ka namang pulis na pwedeng takbuhan. Di ba? Wala ka namang pulis na pwedeng pagsumbungan dahil wala namang justice system. Pinatay ng isang tao yung tatay mo. Anong gagawin mo? Di ba? Natural sa tao na masama ang loob. Anong gagawin mo? Hayaan mo lang. Well, the earliest law is the law of revenge. Okay? Maobliga ka ngayon ng emosyon mo, feeling mo na bigyan ng hustisya yung ginawa nila sa kamag-anak mo o sa tatay mo in this scenario. Diba? You're now obligated na ipaghiganti siya. Ubusan ng lahi yan. Diba? Yun yung law of revenge. Law of talons. Lintik lang ang walang ganti. Lintik. Diba? Pag hindi ka nakaganti, lintik. Okay. So those are the basic concepts of classical criminology. Actually, maraming kailangan pang pag-usapan dito. If you really want to study it, master it. But for this session, siguro muna tayo, scan. Okay? Since ito ay review, revisit, or supplemental learning. Moving on, ang karugtong ng classical, yung tinatawag natin na neoclassical. Ano yung neoclassical? Parang classical din lang yan, mga kaibigan. Kaya lang modified. Modified. It emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Kung mapapansin nyo, classical emerged in 18th century. Yung neoclassical, hindi natin exactly ma-ascertain eh. Kasi wala namang exact proponent ito. Kumbaga, logical question na umusbong itong konsepto ng neoclassical in response doon sa mga konsepto o ideya ng classical. So it is a modern extension of classical criminology. It focuses on human behavior, free will, and circumstances surrounding criminal acts. Halimbawa, kung nakikita nyo dito sa picture, di ba, yan ay Honda Civic FD. Honda Civic FD. Kaway-kaway sa mga naka Honda Civic dyan. Yung nasa itaas, stock. Ipagpalagay natin na yan ang classical. Yung nasa baba, Honda Civic FD pa rin naman, but yan ay modified. Ha? Pagpalagay natin na yan yung neoclassical. Ganyan ang neoclassical. Isa ang pundasyon, pero magkaiba ng tindigan. Right? Kaiba sila ng tindigan. Bakit? Ano ba tinitindigan ng neoclassical theory? Ito yan. Human rationality and free will. Believe that humans have free will and can make rational decisions. Individuals weigh pros and cons before committing a crime. So it is the same with classical theory. Tama? But saan nagkakatalo? It begs the question, no, that does all people have free will? Kasi sabi ng classical, lahat ng tao may free will eh. Sabi naman ng neoclassical, lahat niya ba ng tao may free will? Paano naman yung mga baliw? Yung mga may kakulangan sa pag-iisip? Paano yung mga menor de edad? Hindi pa sila pwedeng magdesisyon para sa sarili nila? Meron nga ba silang free will? Factors like age, mental illness, and coercion can reduce culpability. Here's another example. Coercion. Di ba? Tinutukan ka ng baril ng isang tao. Ang sabi niya, sampalin mo yung katabi mo. Pag hindi mo sinampal, babarilin kita. Sa sobrang takot ng tao, sinampal niya yung katabi niya. Question, can we hold the person na natutukan ng baril accountable? Can we held that liable? Because he can argue. He can argue that under the revised penal code, I am under the compulsion of irresistible force. I was reduced into a mere instrument out of my fear for my life na baka ako barilin kaya ko nasampal yung katabi ko. Yeah. Question, does that person exercise his free will? Or he was merely reduced into an instrument? Yun ang mga pinupunto. Yun ay ilan sa mga pinupunto ng neoclassical. But it is the same, no? Foundationally, the neoclassical still believes that lahat tayo may free will, matalino tayong nilalang. We are rational beings. Pero, ano yung extent ng free will na to? Lahat ba ng tao may free will? That's why, neoclassical school of thought pave way to exemptions. And kung makikita nyo, it is reflected on our criminal law. Pag binasa nyo yung revised penal code natin, meron tayong circumstances affecting criminal liability. At nandyan yung ating mga exempting circumstances and mitigating circumstances. Ano ang basis? Basically, the basis is the concept of neoclassical. It gave an exemption. So, what is the focus on deterrence? The focus on deterrence and rehabilitation. While deterrence remains important, rehabilitation is emphasized. Focus on correcting behavior and reintegrating offenders into society. This concept is also embedded on the positivist criminology, guys. Okay. But for the difference, let us compare side by side the classical and neoclassical. Sa classical criminology, guys, ang isang characteristic nito ay rigid application of laws. Stricto ang classical sa pag-apply ng batas, especially sa pagpaparusa. Wala siyang distinction whether the offender is a minor of old age or a middle-aged adult. Okay? Wala rin siyang distinction whether the person is a rational person or have a mental illness or irrational person. Basta't naggawa yan ng crime, he deserve to be punished based on the aforementioned foundational principle. Sa neoclassical criminology naman, it introduces flexibility. Bakit? Kasi nga, it begs the question, does the person have free will? Kanina in-establish natin, age, mental illness, and coercion. Wala yang free will. Diba? Si X, pinatay niya si B. Sabi ng classical, parusahan yan. Rigid application of laws. But in neoclassical, si X, pinatay niya si B. Ang tanong, meron bang free will si B? Ilang taon na siya? Diba? Meron ba siyang kakulangan sa pag-iisip? O baka naman pinilit siya. Diba? So, nagbigay siya ng flexibility sa application ng punishment. Another distinction is in classical criminology, belief in equal punishment for similar crimes. While in neoclassical, accounts for individual circumstances in criminal behavior. So kung parehas pumatay ng tao, si A at si B, okay, kailangan parehas din ng punishment. So, it should fit the crime. Similar crime, similar punishment. Well, in neoclassical application naman, or neoclassical criminology, applying the principle, it would depend on the individual circumstance of the criminal behavior. Diba? Si A at B, magkasama sila gumawa ng katarantaduhan. Gumahasa sila ng babae. And then, si A pala ay matalinong nilalang, di ba? Nasa legal age na siya. While si B, menor de edad. Sinama-sama niya lang pala, tinuturuan niya maging criminal, ginawa niyang OJT, ginawa niyang intern. Can we apply the same punishment to both of them? Well, the answer is no, under the neoclassical perspective. But in classical perspective, yes, we can apply both. All right. So in conclusion, neoclassical criminology evolved from classical criminology. And it incorporates humane and individualized approaches. It also balances justice with rehabilitation and victim consideration. Okay. Next topic, we have the Italian School of Criminology. Bakit Italian school, sir? Tinatawag din itong Positivist School of Criminology. Okay, kasi Italiano siya eh. Sino? Si Cesare Lombroso. He is also considered as the father of Positivist Criminology or the father of criminology in general. Sir, bakit? Bakit si Cesare Lombroso ang considered father? Bakit hindi si Beccaria nauna siya? Well, they happen to be both Italian and they live around the same time, no? Pero hindi sila magka-batch. But, ang pagkakaiba kasi, Beccaria is a legal reformer. Etong si Cesare Lombroso is more of a scientist. He gathered data. He used research instruments. He analyzed data, evaluated it, and conclude based from these datas. Okay? So, ginamitan niya ng science. Then, nauna, kaya siya tinawag na father or considered father. Because that is the modern criminology. Gumagamit tayo ng science, hindi lang basta haka-haka. Okay? And Lombroso is known for pioneering the study of the biological aspects of criminal behavior. Anong meron sa Positivist School of Criminology? So it emerged around 19th century as a response to the classical school. Ito yung mga key figures natin. Magkakatropa to. Actually, si Enrico Ferri and Garofalo are both students of Lombroso, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse. So, Lombroso is the father of modern criminology. Ferri expanded on Lombroso's ideas incorporating social factors, while Garofalo introduce the concept of natural crime. Ano nga ba yung scientific method? Scientific method. So, in an overview, this is how it looks like. Okay? So, magsisimula tayo sa observation. Ano yung observe natin? Anything. Okay? Anything under the sun, you observe it. But in criminology, we observe the society. Because crime is a social phenomena. So, i-observe natin ang society. And by observing society, we can draw questions from it. Magkakaroon tayo ng tanong. Okay? And then, yung tanong natin, magkakaroon tayo ng sagot, yung hypothesis. Our intelligent guess. Okay. Ano ang palagay nating sagot sa tanong natin? And then, in order to test our hypothesis, we are going to conduct an experiment or we are going to gather data. Diba? And based from the data, by analyzing and evaluating it, we can conclude. Tama? And then, we can now test. We can conclude whether or not tama yung hypothesis natin. Halimbawa, mag-o-observe tayo. Alright? Mag-observe tayo. Anong i-observe natin? Criminologist licensure examination. Anong meron? Ang taas ng passing rate. Ang taas ng passing rate netong mga nakaraang board exam. Yun ang bakit kaya mataas ang passing rate? Yun yung question. Ano yung hypothesis? Mataas ang passing rate kasi ganito yan eh. Yun ang hypothesis. Mataas ang passing rate kasi magagaling na yung next generation natin ng criminology. Or pwede rin, mataas ang passing rate kasi madali yung board exam. Okay? Then we can experiment. Ano magandang experiment ang gawin? Di ba? I-compare natin yung data, ibangga natin, okay? O kaya mag-administer tayo ng another set of exam sa mga pasado, okay? Then we can conclude whatever, di ba? But in criminology kasi, ang i-observe natin ay crime, basically. Because the purpose is to prevent crime, tama? Or if we cannot prevent it, we can maintain or control it at a certain level. Okay. So basically, this is how it works simply. Okay. Going back sa concept ng positivist school of criminology, di ba? We have the concept of determinism, okay? Empirical research, and focus on the offender. Anong tatandaan natin dito? Determinism means criminal behavior is determined by factors beyond the individual's control. Another idea here, or if we can rephrase it sa positivist crime, is that crime is caused by external and internal factors outside the individual's control. Anong mga factors ang nagkakos ng crime? According to positivist criminology, we have biological factors, psychological factors, sociological factors, or environmental factors. Biopsychosocial factors, ang tawagin natin. Ito yung mga factors na maaari nating tignan para ma-identify yung nag-cause ng criminal behavior sa tao. Or maybe we can use this to predict the criminality. or the tendency of the person to commit a crime. This is the essence of determinism. Yung criminal behavior, okay, we can really identify it, what caused it, or we can also predict it, what might cause it. We can predict it by identifying these factors. Second, we have empirical research. Ang positivist kasi, it relies on scientific methods to study crime. Okay? Hindi siya gaya ng classical and neoclassical. Alam nyo, sa classical kasi, kung mapapansin nyo, ang mga proponent dyan, sina Beccaria, sina Bentham, yan. Sila ay mga lawyers, legal reformers, philosophers. While yung mga personality dito sa positivist criminology, they are scientists. Social scientists, biologists, anthropologists, psychologists. That's why these school of thought, positivist, rely on data. Okay, hindi siya, well, maraming mga na-debunk na positivist theories. No? Theories under the positivist school of thought. Maraming na-debunk dyan. But still, it relied on data. Okay. But hindi naman lahat ng data mo tama. Hindi naman lahat ng analysis, conclusion, valuation ay tama. Now, another key idea here in positivist criminology is the focus on the offender, meaning analyzing the characteristics leading to crime. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Kabaliktaran siya dun sa konsepto ng classical. Sa classical kasi, ang focus niya is more on the crime itself. Doesn't matter kung sino ka, bata ka, matanda ka, may sayad ka, o bangag ka, it doesn't matter. Basta gumawa ka ng crime, you deserve to be punished. Because the focus of classical theory is the crime, not the criminal. The offense and not the offender. Sa positivist naman baliktad. No? The focus is on the criminal offender. It is not on the crime. Kaya nga mas lenient eh. Okay. So, pag gumawa ang isang tao ng crime under the positivist lens or perspective, gumawa yan ng crime, pumatay siya ng tao halimbawa, ano ba, ang tanong, ano ba yung mga characteristics na nag-cause sa paggawa niya ng crime? Diba? Kasi siya ay gumanti lang. Ganun ba? O sige, apply natin ang mitigating circumstances. Gumanti lang pala siya. So, reduce natin ang penalty. Parang ganun. Bakit? Because in positivist, actually medyo lenient siya eh. Okay. The purpose of punishment here is treatment and rehabilitation and reformation. Ngayon, ito yung isang weakness niya na nakikita ko eh. Maawain ang positivist. Kasi bago natin i-apply yung law, we consider the factors that cause the criminal behavior. Kumbaga, ang isa sa perspective na ito eh, di ba nga nabanggit natin, ang nagkukos ng crime ay biological, psychological, or sociological factors outside the individual's control. These are internal and external factors outside the individual's control. Kaya naman kung ang nag-cause ng crime ay dahil sa kleptomania siya or kleptomaniac, ang sasabihin natin, hindi naman niya kasalanan kung bakit siya pinanganak na kleptomaniac. Okay, hindi naman niya ginusto yun. So, ang ending, mas magiging lenient yung treatment natin sa kanya. The purpose of punishment is now reformation, rehabilitation, so that we can re-enter him back to the community or to the society. Okay? Yun yung example ng perspective dito. We have biological positivism. Alright? Si Cesare Lombroso, meron siyang idea, okay, yung tinatawag na born criminal. Criminality as an innate characteristics. Identifying criminals through physical anomalies, kung tawagin ay atavism. Okay. Ang tawag niya dun sa tao ay atavistic. Okay. Ano bang ginawa ni Cesare Lombroso? Well, here's the idea. Marami siyang criticism, no, because of this. Because he conducted a study, gusto niya malaman kung ma-identify mo ba ang isang criminal through facial features, physical anomalies. Ang ginawa niya, pumunta siya sa prison, tapos in-examine niya ngayon yung mga prisoner, halimbawa, murder. In-examine niya yung mga may kaso ng murder. I think nasa 1,000 prisoner ba yung in-examine niya. Okay. Shape ng kanilang muka, mga peculiar characteristics, shape ng ulo, diba? Cheekbone, panga, tenga. So, in-examine niya yan. And then, marahil, tinignan niya yung mga common denominators. Ano ba itsura ng murderer? Ano yung pagkakapareho nila? And then eventually, he came up with this conclusion that there are born criminals. And yung mga born criminals na to, meron silang mga characteristics na makikita mo, ma-identify mo. And ang naging criticism nito is, yun nga, mapanghusga yung kanyang, although gumamit siya ng data, dinaan niya sa scientific method. Pero ang ending, marami siyang criticism kasi parang yung isipin mo, ang babaw naman siguro masyado pag bumase tayo sa appearance, no? But he was being objective in this study. No? Ikaw ba payag ka pag sinabi niyang, ay, ikaw pinanganak kang rapist. Bakit? Kasi lubog yung cheekbones mo. Pwede ba yun? I mean, anong basis? Diba? Basis yung ginawa niyang study. But it is not, accurate. Okay. Yun yung mga naging criticism dito. Born criminal. But if I'm not mistaken, there was a study supporting the claim of Lombroso na criminal behavior is inherited. Pero isang study, isang university sa US nga, through genes, namamana natin yung mga characteristics ng ascendants natin, ancestors natin. And kung criminal nga yung ancestor mo or ascendant mo, may mga mamamana at mamamana ka sa kanya na combination. And parang yung idea kasi nito, it supports the claim of Lombroso that there are born criminals. In fact, sa criminology, if you encounter, pag mag-aaral kayo ng criminology, o kung ang criminology graduates kayo nagre-review for the board exam, ang karaniwang ginagamit na example pagka mga biological studies supporting the claim that crime is inherited is yung case ni Margaret Ada Duke and the Kalikak family, di ba? Kung tawagin niya si Ada Duke ay mother of criminals. Bakit? Sapagkat nung nag-conduct si Richard Dugdale ng genealogy, napakarami niyang descendants na they turn to crime. They become criminals, and they attribute this due to biology. Namamana nga daw kasi. Kumpara dun sa isang genealogy ng isang pastor, nalimutan ko na yung pangalan eh. Henry ba yun? James Henry ba? Edward Henry? Basta nalimutan ko na rin, pero nasa libro ninyo. Anong nangyari, di ba, pastor siya. So maayos yung pamilya nila, walang crime, walang criminal. Yung mga descendants niya is puro naman ngayon professional, doctors, lawyers, businessmen, governors of state, politicians. They are professional. Okay. Kumpara kay Kalikak, Martin Kalikak, and Adajuk, na puro naman criminal. Okay, due to inattribute nila sa genes. No? So, is crime inherited or is crime learned? Dalawang konsepto yan eh. May mga nagsasabing ang pagiging kriminal ay namamana. May mga nagsasabi naman na ang kriminal ay natututunan at hindi namamana. Pero it is quite interesting na sa leadership, sa konsepto ng leadership, meron tinatawag na trait theory. Diba? Ano yung trait theory? Hindi ko lang masyadong mabigkas yung letter R eh. Kasi may problema ako ngayon sa ngipin, hindi ko pa napaayos. But this trait theory of leadership emphasize that leadership traits are 30% inherited. Ano sabi niya? Mga nasa around 30% ng personality natin na i-inherit natin through genes, no? Sa mga magulang natin, mga ninuno natin. Kaya yung isang magaling na leader, ang presumption natin ay kung magaling ang tatay, nanay, ay baka namana din niya yung kagalingan ng kanyang leadership. Okay? Trait theory of leadership. Namamana daw yung kagalingan sa pagiging leader, around 30% of our personality. I'm not quite sure with the number. You can search that and confirm that on the internet. But sabi nga ni Dr. Edwin Sutherland, criminal behavior is learned the same way legal behavior is learned. Diba? This is on the other side of the story naman. Kung may namamana tayong personality, meron din naman tayong natututunan. So, parang konsepto ng nature versus nurture, no? That is Lombroso's theory of born criminal naman. Right? Ang dami nating interjection. Sorry, no? Ang dami yung interjection na pansin ko lang. Masyadong humahaba yung kwentuhan. Moving on. Ito mga last part ng ating discussion. Key concepts in classical, neoclassical, and positivist criminology. So, we have hedonist. Nabanggit natin to kanina. Pag sinabing hedonist, we refer to a person. Okay? It refers to a person who speaks or who seeks pleasure and avoids pain. Okay? Actually, that is the nature of man according to the concept of classical criminology. No? Normal lang naman sa tao na ayaw niya masaktan, gusto niya ng magkaroon ng benefits, gusto niya yung pleasure, gusto niya maging masaya. Okay? Ang tawag naman natin sa taong puro saya ang hinahanap, puro sarap, at ayaw niya ng pain, hedonist. Okay? And what is the purpose of punishment in classical criminology? Ito, mga recap to review. Ang purpose niyan is revenge or retribution. Okay? Kaya tayo nagpaparusa under the classical criminology. Pag may gumawa ng crime, kaya tayo nagpaparusa is para siya ay maiganti natin yung victim. Third, what is the purpose of punishment in positivist? Okay, that is rehabilitation and reformation. Fourth, okay, ano yung neoclassical? It evolved from classical criminology. Yung mga characteristics niya, it gave an exemption to the concept of classical criminology regarding free will. Diba? Hindi lahat ng tao may free will. So, hindi lahat dapat ay mapunish. Magbigay tayo ng exemption. And we have utilitarianism, the principle of Bentham, which states that the greatest good for the greatest number. Right. Ito mga pinasimple na lang natin to. Who is the father of criminology? Lombroso. Paano pagtanong? Who is the father of classical criminology? Cesare Beccaria. Kaya lang hindi na yan tatanungin sa board exam according to for PRB chairman, Attorney Gabao. Kasi nga, you cannot use that. What is the relevance of those information? Hindi siya skills-based eh. Okay, so it is more on just nice to know information. Pero hindi mo siya magagamit basically sa pang-araw-araw na trabaho ng criminologist. And with the father of classical, nabanggit natin si Cesare Beccaria. Ito, meron tayong kasabihan. Man is occasionally subdued by a morbid or strange phenomena which conditions him to do wrong contrary to his own volition. And this statement pertains to what school of criminology? Positivist. Bakit? Alam nyo, maganda ibig sabihin nito eh. O basahin natin ulit. Man is occasionally subdued by a morbid or strange phenomena which conditions him to do wrong contrary to his own volition. Kung mapapansin nyo, kahit gaano ka-straight ang tao sa buhay, kahit gaano yan katuwid, kahit gaano yan kabuting tao, masunurin sa batas, meron at merong pagkakataon na kung saan alam mo yung pag hiningi ng pagkakataon, nagkakaroon siya ng mga hindi maintindihan na pangyayari na kung saan nag-uudyok sa kanya na gumawa ng krimen o kaya lumabag sa batas. Alam mo yun, yung paminsan-minsan, nauudyukan ka ng hindi mo maipaliwanag na sitwasyon na kung saan ikaw ay magkakamali. Kahit gaano ka pa ka-straight. Ngayon, bakit siya positivist? Kasi sabi ng positivist, it is outside of your control. You know, we examine these factors that cause criminal behavior outside the individual's control. These are internal and external factors. Halimbawa, naglalakad ka lang, hindi mo na in-expect, nakapulot ka ng 1,000 pesos. Siyempre, bilang isang tao na nakaka-recognize ng value, hindi mo naman basta dadaanan lang yung 1,000 pesos. Can you imagine, naglalakad ka, walang tao, and then biglang may 1,000 pesos na nasa harap mo? Hindi mo ba pupulutin? Pulutin mo. Kasi siyempre, baka gusto mong ibalik sa may-ari, di ba? O kaya naman naniniwala ka na finders keepers. But that very act is theft. Di ba? theft. Bakit theft? Because that is unlawful taking of property that belongs to another with intent to gain. Well, if you intend to gain, sabi mo, finder's keeper, sa akin na to, wala namang may-ari, sayang. Be it 1,000 pesos or 1 peso, 5 pesos, that is theft because that is unlawful taking of property that belongs to another with intent to gain. Okay, sabi mo, sayang naman tong piso. Diba? Kahit piso pa yan. That is a crime. But, malaki man o maliit yan, that is a crime. But, may iba justify yan na maliit lang naman na bagay. Diba? Malaki man o maliit, parehas pa rin yun. Diba? Na paglabag sa batas. In relation dito sa kasabihan, man is occasionally subdued by a morbid or strange phenomena which conditions him to do wrong contrary to his own volition. Kahit hindi mo ginusto o ginusto, basta may mga pangyayari na mag-uudyok sa'yo na gumawa ng krimen. Number 9, a criminal is considered as sick person. Therefore, he should be treated as such and should not be punished. What school of criminology this idea pertains to? That is positivist. Right? So, hindi ko nabanggit kanina, but that is another view under positivist criminology. Ang tingin natin sa mga nakakalabag sa batas, under positivist perspective, they are sick person. They cannot control themselves. Why? Because what caused them to commit crime are internal and external factors outside of their control. And because of that, we need to treat them, we need to rehabilitate them, we need to reform them. Kaya mas lighter ang penalty. Unlike classical theory na kailangan talaga, it should fit the crime. Diba? Dapat mahigpit, rigid in application of law. Okay, tanong. Ano ba ginagamit natin sa Pilipinas? Is it positivist, neoclassical, or classical? Kung mababasa niyo yung mga libro sa criminal law, all of it, all of the above, ay ginagamit natin as a basis. All of it, ginagamit natin yan. We have the eclectic theory, the combination of the three, as basis of our criminal law. And, eto, kaninong idea to? Criminal behavior is inherited. This idea pertains to what school of criminology? That is positivist. Biological determinism by Lombroso. Man is a rational animal which weighs the pros and cons of his acts before committing it. That is classical criminology. Diba? Okay. Ito sana pala yung mga quiz ko after ng discussion natin. Kaya lang, wala nang quiz. Okay, sinagutan na natin. Ni-review na natin agad yung quiz. Anyway, maybe we can have quiz on the succeeding lessons. What is the type of deterrence which is applicable to the offender? Specific deterrence. Diba? Ba't ka nagpaparusa? Sagot dyan para magtanda siya. Tawag doon specific deterrence. Bakit natin siya pinaparusahan? Same thing, para magtanda siya and para magtanda naman yung makakakita sa kanya. Para magtanda yung iba, wag na nilang tularan. That is general deterrence. Ano yung nagbigay ng exception considering the circumstances of the offender? That is neoclassical. Paano naman yung mga baliw, mga minor de edad, mga matatanda, mga napilit lang? Okay? Wala silang free will. Ang tawag natin dyan ay neoclassical. The scientific study of crimes, criminal, and victims. Anong tawag dyan? It includes the solution and prevention of crimes, that is criminology. Under what basis? Under what definition? RA 11131. Diba? Okay. Next, siguro, next part, next video, discuss naman natin yung mga iba't ibang theories ng positivist criminology. Alright? So, kung gusto nyo mag-review, mag-comment lang kayo. Kung gusto nyo, ano yung mga topics na gusto nyo gawan natin ng discussion or pag-usapan. Okay. Comment lang kayo. Dati ako nagtuturo sa school. Actually, ginagawa ko to, yung video na to, kasi parang na-miss ko lang din na mag-discuss. And medyo naninibago pa ako kasi parang kinalawang na rin yung utak ko sa mga criminology topics. In order to refresh it, parang kutsilyo ba, di ba? Pag hindi mo nagagamit, pumupurol. So, para mahasa siya, yun, as a part of my exercise, gusto ko mag-discuss. So, kung may mga tanong kayo, please ask it in the comment section nang masagot natin. And yes, para makatulong na rin tayo sa mga nagre-review for the board exam, sa mga estudyante dyan, naghahanap ng supplemental learning materials, sige mag-message, comment. So, that's it. See you sa next part ng topic natin. Okay? So, maraming salamat kung nakarating ka rito. Ano ba yan? Nakarating ka rito, maraming salamat. Right. Peace out.